coaching as such, right, is more about me helping a person to uncover what is inside them. Don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. So you have to be you until you're fully you.
Coach really essentially has the ability to ask very good questions.
If you want to learn from a monkey, probably you will learn a lot of monkey business. Imagine that you're going to learn from an elephant, probably you'll learn how to throw your weight around.
What are the top 3 skills that people should equip themselves with?
I would say right now people need to read more.
Read more.
Read
Wow,
more.
yeah.
Read more.
Do people still read these days?
Hi everyone, welcome to Asia Business Owner Podcast, ABOS for short. With the changing economy, especially after pandemic, do you ever wonder why business lifespan is getting shorter? Do you ever wonder what causes it? Are you one of the business owners who are in the midst trying to figure a way out? Or are you intending to start your own business venture believing that everything will work out but somehow you feel something is missing? Or do you want to start a business however, you do not know what to go for? If you have all these questions on the list that I mentioned earlier or many more that I have not mentioned, then we are here to fill the gap.
Hi, this is Joe.
Hi, this is Ben. So before we start, we'd like to encourage everyone to do us a free service by subscribing to our podcast so that we can invite more business owners to share their experience and knowledge with all of us. Okay, today we have this very, very interesting guest coming to our podcast show. And she had very interesting career path where she started in Intel and later moved into more complex enterprise solution where HPC, cybersecurity with McAfee, and so on. And she have quite a global experience working across Singapore, London, Munich, Moscow, and Silicon Valley. Specialized in sales strategy and go-to-market execution, AI workflow, and technological advisory. So right now, she's also having career transformation and fractional leadership services to offer to the public as well. So without any further ado, let's welcome Natalia.
Hey guys, good afternoon. I realized I probably need to simplify my profile.
I hope I didn't cover the most part of it already. Do you need to elaborate further about more about yourself and your career path?
I probably would say that it's actually funny when you work for a big corporate, right? You usually start your introduction saying, hey, I'm Natalia. I am technology sales leader working for this organization, and here is my company. And when you leave it, right, you always kind of like have this void behind you because this brand that was standing behind you just suddenly disappeared. And that's a big kind of like loss in the identity that you have, right? Because we have, especially if you spend like 10, 15, 20 years in the company, right? And then you have to rebuild it from scratch. You really need to kind of find back who you are, what you stand for. And it took me a while, probably a good 12 months last year, as I progressed from my corporate job into like what I do right now. And right now, I would say I am a portfolio practitioner. All right. And by portfolio, I mean that I do fractional sales for the startups in Asia, based out of Singapore. I do a lot of coaching on the corporate to portfolio side, because again, I've been there, have all the scars, right? Made all the mistakes. I can definitely help like people to ask the right questions if portfolio is really for them, or if actually it's better to reinvent themselves in the corporate world. I'm a founder, and I find a lot of joy in volunteering, right? And we can touch on that as well. So I do a lot of charity bike rides when I get my fat backside on the bike and cycle 1,000 kilometers from Vietnam to Cambodia and raise money for the kids in Cambodia.
Awesome.
1,000 kilometers. How long does that take?
5 days.
5 days. Wow, it's amazing.
You really have like at the end of this journey, you always feel like all of the muscles that you never imagined in your body. Like you think that like was like out of the standard thing that hurts, like when you move from the chair or something. But like at the end of this ride, you feel everything. No secrets.
You know what caught my attention is that Natalia and I actually share the same knowledge in terms of sales presentation. And that got me very excited to have her on our podcast today. But of course, today we are not going to go into the discussion on the sales technique and so on. So today we should actually focus on Natalia, what you are doing right now and how you can actually help more business owners at this point of time. So
Sure.
after 25 years of like in a world-class company like Intel, what belief about sales did you have to unlearn when you become an entrepreneur?
Well, a few things. So as I mentioned, usually when you work in a big company, you kind of like you're part of the wide organization when you have tools at your disposal, support groups, things that you have been doing before, right? And you kind of rely on that because you get in, you get like all of the guidelines, you get all of the messaging. So you kind of like act within the guidelines. When you're on your own, you have to, well, first of all, you have to build this kind of like presence, your voice, how you talk about things, like, so you really get into this knowledge that you have and how you transform it into like to what you want to achieve. Second, right now, you really have to be more efficient in the way you like your work. So in the past, for example, I could get access to some research, IDC or Gartner or whatever it will be, right? Right now, I have to build it myself. And obviously, you can have a lot of AI research, but then AI should be supervised. So you really have to take something that AI produces, but then really transform that into the workflow that makes you more efficient in doing some research. Right. Yeah. And then again, kind of like the connections with people, because again, like what is great with Portfolio Careers Asia group here in Singapore is connections. It's like a family. You ask a question, like the weirdest one, and then like people give you an answer within like seconds. So yes, you lose the corporate network, but you build a new one, which is really very valuable, right? And that's kind of what I tend to lean on right now.
So are you adapting right now, or you're already adapt to what you are doing?
I would say it's a journey, and the journey will be very different from different people, right? Obviously, kind of like when you start, you see things in a very glamorous pink and like gold and gilded colors, right? Because yes, I'm going to do this, and like I'm be very fast. I'll get my first revenue within 2 weeks since I started. Like it doesn't work that way. You really have
2 weeks, that's very ambitious, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody thinks this way, right? So like, yeah, I'll just get my clients and like I'll do things very quickly. So first of all, again, as a best practice, what I would say is that setting up the tools, right? And by tools, I mean the process of like NDAs, process of like how you separate the workflows for different customers, understanding how you can work with different customers, right? Because obviously there are different ways to do it, commission, retainer, you can do projects, you can do some sprints. So it really depends like what your core business expertise is, right? And again, you really have to understand that it's not I mean, you can probably crack it quickly, right? But like the expectation should be that you are there for the long run, and you really should have an understanding what it takes, what is your runway, and kind of like what skills you need to have and what support you need. Because obviously, if you don't have your family support, it's very difficult to continue what you're doing. I'm lucky. I have my husband's support that he said, like, yeah, just go and crack yourself. Right, knock yourself out, maybe it works, right? But again, kind of like for many people who, for example, have some obligations, like they have to feed the kids because they're the only person in the family who actually earns money. So that could be a limiting factor. So you really need to like look into what it takes, how long it takes to like to get you started, and then like have a really specific touch points. If it doesn't work until that time, what is my plan B, right? And having this understanding is important.
Actually, I am just curious, like what prompted you to go into what you are doing right now? From where you are coming from, is a very comfortable life, I would say, to many.
So first of all, the wide observation, there is no safety anymore. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and they were saying, well, in Germany, the like 100, 200 jobs are being lost in automotive industry just alone every day. Like 50,000 jobs lost last year. Corporate safety, which was a great concept of the last like decades, it probably is right now shifting and is changing and transforming the way it works. At the same time, the way people think about their skills and knowledge and work and how they can monetize it also transforms, right? And the regulation follows, because like obviously some countries are ahead, some countries are behind, there are some visa requirements, the list goes on, right? That some people actually want to have the more experienced, more expensive people at the fraction of the time, not at the full contract, rather than like hiring them like full time, because that's just a big chunk of P&L. At the same time, when I left Intel, I realized that I didn't know what I want to do, but I had a very clear understanding of what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have every single 11 p.m. call with California and Europe at the same time. I had just enough of those. I had like 2 or 3 of these calls per week. I had jet lag when I didn't fly anywhere. And it was just like so bad, because like you expect to have this jet lag when you can't like wake up in the morning because you're just like so sleepy, and you haven't even gone anywhere nice. And then at the same time, you're always sleepy, always just like over yourself, and then you are not performing well anyways. And then I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but I definitely know I don't want to have any single day of that. At that time, so basically how it worked, right? So obviously Intel started their retrenchments in 2024. And I was in a group which was kind of protected because we were heading towards IPO, right? And again, kind of like I was like thinking that will be a startup mentality, because we're kind of separating from a big mothership and we'll get into a smaller company that might have a lot of fun on itself. And I was, like leaving after 24 years without a package, a bit silly. Right, so I was like, okay, I'll just sit it out, right? But then, like, what happened is that once probably there was one day when the management looked into the list of people in the region and said, hey, we have a lot of very expensive, very kind of like experienced people on the list. We are going towards IPO. Probably makes sense to cut the expenses right now. So they offered us a package, and I was like, I kind of like thought for one night, unemployment. And it's a really, really tough word to bear, because again, like if you have been working for 25 years, like to be unemployed, it's a really, really kind of like load-bearing thing that you attach to yourself. But then my husband, like a person who said that, hey, just knock yourself out. He said, you know what, you can position it as freedom, because you have a freedom to choose what you want to do. And so for me, it was unemployment for one night. And then I kind of switched into this freedom concept. And then I said, where do I sign?
Oh, your husband is the wise man.
He is. I mean, like, he really is a big supporter for me. And so then what happened is that when I left again, I had no idea what I want to do. And what he said, you know what, just go traveling. So I took a backpack and I went traveling for 5 weeks in Southeast Asia. I never did it when I was like 20. Right? It's sometimes like really fun to do it when you have some more capabilities, right, and more options. Actually, it was really funny that I had a very bad surgery in 2024, and unfortunately my insurance company didn't pay it, so I had to pay myself. And then I had a very nice amount of miles on my account with Singapore Airlines, so I thought that as kind of like I can plan my travel across all of these countries, I can actually book my remote flights, right? So I was traveling in comfort in business class. So it was a backpacking in a business class, so it was a bit of a perk from the corporate life. My friend even gave me a small bag with a sign, do I look like I fly economy? Because it's still...
Okay, but still, how do you link it to like a career coach right now that you are doing?
So what I understand is that a lot of people, and again, that is valid for people who still work in big enterprises, people who are exploring something new, right? The problem with us is that humans tend to kind of like look into what they know. They have a really very tunneled vision, right? Not because we are like stupid, right? It's really just because like you take this most comfortable way to do things. And I realized that myself because again, like for me, it was like first, of course, I was thinking maybe some other corporate, etc. But then I realized, well, I can actually just like give myself a bit of freedom just to look around and see what could be this possibility. So I started like to look into the concept of Ikigai. And I know there is this Western view into Ikigai, this Venn diagram, which is a bit of a more commercialized version of that. Then you have this traditional Japanese concept of Ikigai, which is more about like meaning and purpose and what makes you happy. It's not necessarily linked to how you can monetize it, but I still think that people can have this understanding that I like what I'm doing and I can get paid for it, right? So it's not really fighting with the idea of Ikigai as such, but actually it can give you the guidance into what you can do that makes you happy, but at the same time, you can also build some career or options around it. And again, it's not a static thing because obviously in everybody's life, it can be the 50s when people are starting over. At 30s, people had enough of career, like the run for the career, right? People can scale back. People can want to restart at 50. People can get back to work after maternity or paternity leave, right? So there's really a lot of things that you have to consider when you talk about meaning and what it means for you in your coaching, in your career experience and your life experience as such. So for me, the coaching is really about helping people to find what is this meaning for them in this stage of life they're in, because it can be completely different for different people.
I'm glad you touched on this concept of Ikigai. So for those listeners out there who don't know what Ikigai is, can you just give a brief explanation of what exactly Ikigai means?
So if you look back into the probably early 2010, there was a chap who did a podcast or a TED talk when he saw it's like what you like, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what pays well. And that was like this Venn diagram. So like in the center, this is your Ikigai. Obviously, this is a very westernized approach to that. So for me, it's more about what really drives you, right? Because it really goes towards different things, as I said, in different stages of life of people. Plus, liking something is not enough to actually action on it, right? Because it's still more in this nice to have thing. So there's much more to that when you really should apply some of the more specific things. For example, I can like cats, but at the same time, do I go to feed them in Tanjung Pagar, or do I do some volunteering to help to spay and neuter them? Well, I don't do that. I donate every month, right? But anyways, in really making this something meaningful for yourself, right? You still need to have more different emotions and feelings behind that, right? And that's where I landed in the sense that it's not just this 4 simple questions, it's slightly wider concept that you need to look into.
And that's the reason, or probably that's why you have this unscripted Ikigai concept. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So I took it a bit wider. As I said, I have done. So obviously, everybody is experimenting with AI. So I've done some of my own prompting. I did some experiments, and then I realized that actually this is a really cool thing for me, right? And then I tested this with a couple of friends, and they kind of agreed that this is a good concept. And they're actually, I can productize that. And then I realized that, well, I really need to bring back all of my knowledge about data, privacy, security, how the architecture should work. But then again, you can build a lot of things right now with AI, which is a great thing because the time to market and the time from some idea to bring in some product which can work for other people, it's really very short. So that's the beauty of the world we live right now. So if you have the idea that actually makes sense, which is productizable, which is unique, which delivers what people need, right? So obviously still need to follow the traditional design thinking framework, right? Like from the idea, like from empathizing with audience and through ideation, and the list goes on, right? But still, once you go through this design thinking framework in the world of AI, the delivery is quite fast.
So do you think that for any individual who have some career stagnant, it's probably because they are not very good in marketing their own personal brand?
I would say the problem is probably starts a bit deeper. It's probably about positioning.
Want to share or elaborate something much more further than that?
Sure. So from where I see for many people, right, is that we have been put into this templates, right? So like when you work in a corporate, and that's why I said, so like when you work in a big enterprise, you come up as that I'm this and this job title at this and this company, right? So like in this case, you think in the same template or same mindset. But then when you leave, again, a lot of people, they try to go for the same job title or similar kind of like field, which is very familiar and feels very comfortable, because we were all taught that there is the strength trainer things, right? When you like need to lean into your strength. But then the problem is that sometimes the strengths, are they still relevant? Because right now, a lot of things are being changed in a way that the skills that made you a fortune in the past, they might not be relevant anymore. So in this case, the question is how you can reposition the skills, how you can reposition what you are good at into what can get you hireable or which can get you serviceable. Because in the end, it's really about you selling your expertise, whether to corporate or to some clients.
You know, that's pretty in line with what I have shared with quite a number of university students. And they keep asking me about, should they, coming out and start their own business and so on. So I had this thought, and I would be sharing with them that, do you know that the more technical knowledge that you're actually equipped with, your certification usually come with an expiry date that take along. Yeah. And without going into a corporate company to work with and get the experience, network. So by the time you are trying to go back into the workforce again, probably the value of your certification will be degraded. Do you agree on that?
I definitely agree on the part of the expiration date, right? Because again, and that's actually the funny thing that I kind of like came to think of recently. I'm really inspired by aviation, right? So like I love planes. Recently, I took my first flight simulator experience, which was brilliant. If you haven't done it, try it. That's a lot of fun. To land the plane in Changi is fun, especially in the rainy day. But also watch different videos around aviation, specifically the aviation accidents. And as I was watching the video few weeks back, I learned about the concept of damage tolerance, right? So like back in the beginning of aviation, there was the concept of safe life, when every part of the plane had specific lifetime that it had to serve. And it worked, but the assumption was that it will be caught at the next kind of like next inspection. But then the safe life became not enough. So like there were some accidents, people died. So then it was the fail-safe concept, when you created a second layer of protection. For example, you have some redundancy, so you have like something that protects the main element, even if it's broken. But that also was not working well, because then again, if you didn't have enough inspection or you inspected the wrong thing, you also have an accident. And that's why they created the concept of damage tolerance. And that's where you look into various things like the inspection mechanisms, you do the specific evaluation of your skill. Well, in the past it was parts, right now you can actually transform that into the skills, right? So you do this evaluation, and then you see if this really works in the situation you are in, right? So do you have the tolerance against where you are, against your skills towards what you're trying to achieve? So in this case, the expiration date of your certificate is exactly that thing, right? So you have the safe life part, which kind of works for 1 year, but is it really? Yeah, and again, like if you really look deeper into this, right? So how you can run this inspection, right? So like what you need to evaluate on, right? So like what tests you need to run, how often, and there's really like a lot of things that you can apply in the careers, and that's how I try to work with my clients.
So based on your experience and your views, what are the top 3 skills that people should equip themselves with?
I would say right now people need to read more.
Read more.
Read
Wow, yeah.
Read more. So,
Sorry
I mean,
to laugh at it. I think if you look at the statistics these days, many do not read anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
well,
Yes.
but that's the problem, right? Because again, like when we were young, I mean, I'm not young anymore. I'm covering my gray hair with blonde color. But when I was young, I spent my summer holidays reading. And it was everything. It was like history books. It was cultural books. It was, I don't know, some novels. I don't know, the different, I don't know, thrillers, like whatever it was, right? So you just like your brain consumes a lot of information, and there are several things around it, right? So first of all, well, obviously, I'm Russian, right? So like I was reading a lot of things in Russian, right? So for me, it was that I actually learned how to write in Russian in the very like 100% correct grammar, right? Because again, like when you read things, you just learn how the words look like, right? So you learn the things just because you process them like so much, right? Second, you manage to have some creativity because obviously like your brain starts to like connect the dots, and you have some imagination and things kind of that you try to imagine from what you have been reading, and like that's at least how it worked for me. And then again, you like start to build up the way you can put your thoughts together on the paper, right? So in this case, you kind of like you have this elements of, first of all, knowing things, processing things, connecting things through imagination, and then expressing things, right? And that's where I would say that people really can learn a lot of skills which are very relevant just from reading. And
True.
again, like sitting just like for 10 minutes reading a long article, I mean, I'm sometimes skipping that, like get the chance, right? But I realized that if the article is really written in a good language, which is really exciting, you just read through that. You just dedicate your time to have to sit in there and like giving it attention.
I totally can understand where you're coming from. And along the line, there are people who came to me to ask for mentorship. So
Yeah.
the first question that I actually asked them would be like, do you read? It's like the astonished look, in their face. Huh? Do people still read these days? So my next thing would be, okay, why don't you start reading a book in a month? After 3 months, you come to me and let me know what you have read before we start the mentorship. Oh, the result is that no one will actually come forward after 3 months.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay, but
And the number 1 recommended books, right, that everyone must read is Ben's book, The Business Cancer.
thank you for promoting.
By the way, I need to look it up. I have to admit I haven't read it, so something that I have to read myself. Yeah, but the thing is that again, reading is one thing. The second thing that I really would encourage people is really experiencing presence, and presence in a way that you don't try to touch any devices, you don't try to touch any technology, and just be present with somebody you care about, right? So having a conversation like for 1 hour without distractions, and again, listening, not trying to respond, but just listening to give person presence. Because this is what AI cannot do for us. I don't know how, if you experience this or not, guys, as a woman, I can say that I'm struggling with AI mansplaining. You ask things, and then it just comes back to you with a wall of text, which you didn't ask for. Sometimes it's just like not like it's really far away from like what you want like to achieve, right? But at the same time, yeah, it just gives it a lot of like confidence, like with a lot of confidence, and it just like gets into you, and you're, oh my God, can we stop that?
Yeah, so
You know,
I have this habit, this concept of digital detox, right? Yeah, so I practice it almost every single day. Is that from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. I do not check my phone.
Well done. Well done. You know what we've done back, so when I lived in London, obviously it was like 7, 8 years ago. So what we were doing back then with my husband, we had the digital detox weekend, and we put down our smartphones and we used like Nokia or like Samsung phones just to make calls. It was a bit complicated because you can't call Uber or like like use the Google Maps. But you first of all, you really don't use any of your devices. And then you really try to rewire your brain to like to remember how to get like with normal maps or like some instructions or whatever it is, right? And then just like trying to operate in the way that we used to operate in the past without having any of this support elements that helps us. That also, I mean, I don't drive here in Singapore. I cycle, right? So obviously, like I know a lot of things how to get from one place to another by bike. Surprisingly, if you put me in a car, I might have struggled because I never did it, right? So like, yes, my brain have this like this connections built to do this like with a bike, but not with a car. And also because in the car, I'm usually busy just doing some work on the phone or just like scrolling through some cat videos, right? So cat like it reads just like we're so inside the technology and we so much rely on the technology that sometimes we just like forget some basic things that we used to be able to operate.
I do reckon with what you have said. So imagine the last time when we do not have smartphone, we can memorize phone number easily. Do you realize it? So
That's the point.
yeah.
Yes, I had a chat with completely like about this. I had a chat with my taxi driver today. So he said that I don't remember any phone number in my phone. My 87-year-old mother, that the guy said to me, remembers all of the numbers of her friends and kids and like all important numbers. And I'm like, yeah, I only know by heart the number of my mom and my sister, but that's it. I don't even remember the number of my husband, right? So like for me, it's just like, yeah, it's just like fast call and that's it, right? You just press the number, the button, and then you call him. But you're right. We don't make an effort to do that.
Yes.
And that's the difference with technology when it overwhelms your life, is that you lean into a simpler way of doing things. And that is the trap, because you give up the cognitive load for that, and you also give up the agency, right? Because if something happens with your phone, can you call someone that you know?
Now, since we are talking about modern technology and we touch on AI, so do you believe AI is accelerating career transitions? And if so, what skill should professionals develop to remain relevant?
Yeah, so I would say that there was really like a lot of discussions right now around professional identity and AI. The problem quite often is that as I said, so like it's really about repositioning a person, right? So like where a person is, where the skills are, how relevant they are, and if they have this know-how that they can actually deliver or like monetize. When you use AI, well, first of all, there is a lot of like overwhelming because it just like does things faster. You feel like you are more productive, but you are not. You're just more exhausted. That's what I realized, that like working on something like the whole day, I just like really get off my desk like really tired. So for people who want to be successful in their career progression with AI. I would say that it's really important to really have this thing that you know about and really seeing how you can bring the tangible value, the monetizable value that you can deliver knowing the tools, right? You don't have to like know all the tools, but you need to know and understand how you can build something yourself, right? So I give you an example. I know someone who, being again kind of like a non-developer from scratch, built a subject matter expertise alone that is right now being used across the organization, right? And this person built it without any natural management. They just realized that going every day and search for some information just really like makes very complicated. There was also another language involved. So in this case, you really have to think about how to translate that, how to get the knowledge extracted from the translation, and so on and so forth. So this person realized that I want to have this type of information at my fingertips. I want to train the engine. I want it to be more responsive and like more kind of like knowledgeable and come back to me with what I want to achieve. And that's exactly what they built. So right now this is being used. So that's an example where you really take something where you are specializing in and you see how you can actually improve that outcome for the company and for yourself. The more of such examples you can bring, the more hireable you are. Because then you don't come as a job title, you come as a person who is solving a problem with the use of technology. And then again, it doesn't matter which technology, because you can obviously learn to use technology. It's just another tech, right? So like you can do that. It's really about if you have this understanding and you can apply that, there you go.
Okay, let us connect the dot of what you had just said. So it's more like someone must able to equip with a strategic thinking, and they must be able to come up with a solution and able to communicate and present it effectively.
Yes, and put a price on it.
Okay,
People struggle with that. A lot of people struggle with that because, again, kind of like if you're a corporate employee, yes, you know what salary to ask for. But if you are not, how can you price your time? How can you price your energy?
You know, from what we have just discussed, I realized that what I have all mentioned just now when I connected dot, all these stages are not easy at all for many. Strategic thinking is not for everyone, for sure, because you need a lot of experience, you need a lot of knowledge, and like you mentioned earlier on, is that they must have the ability to connect all the dots together in order to strategize and looking at the big picture as well. And in order to come up with a solution, probably a lot of networking and exchange of opinion, ideas that you're able to see one solution from another industry that are able to work in another industry. But last but not least, I think the communication part is the most tedious for everyone, as I think for quite a number of workshops that I actually conduct, I realized that many do not know how to express their ideas effectively. And I always say this: human beings are not born to communicate. In the first place, when there's a human being, you realize that we rely a lot on our body language. Yeah, and subsequently we start to learn alphabet, and we start to combine all this alphabet together and form language. And that's why I don't think that humans are really a born communicator. So we have to learn along the way. And I think attending workshop, getting a coach is definitely a very important in order to improve and progress. I guess for your career-wise, probably that's where you come in very handy, since you equip with the sales presentation skill set, and at the same time, you do have the kind of network to help people to improve on their career path. So that's why you are in it right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and communication
Yes.
usually it's really okay. If you really talk to companies and business owners, you'll find out that actually the root cause of all problems are basically communication.
Yes. People just don't talk enough with their mouth. They just assume a lot of things. And that's actually another thing about coaching that really helped me a lot, like recently, is that we are very bad with agreements. Setting up the coaching agreement with a client about what they're trying to achieve and what the end result as they see it will be, and then having this like specific coaching agreements for every session. And then sticking to it, and then like trying to like really get towards the goal. That is really a great skill, because in many things we expect things from others and we don't check if these things are still the same as we talked like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, etc. And that's why you say that communication and actually like cross-checking things, having the agreements, executing towards specific things is really something that a lot of people are missing.
Yes, that's totally agree. And last week when we interviewed Maurice, I actually made these comments, and seriously, I keep laughing at it. I was saying this, that a manager is a very good leader, and the boss is a very good manager. And why I'm saying this, if you dive in deeper, you realize that a manager needs to be a good communicator, and a good communicator usually are the leader. Upon saying that actually have more impact. And when a boss become a good manager, usually they will face a common issue, which is retention. And if a good manager is a very good leader, then you realize that the boss is always in a situation of firefighting. So what I'm trying to say is that it's more like a micromanaging kind of situation.
So that's a bit deep, right? Let's probably get into some details of that, right? So not all the managers are good leaders, right? So that's I've seen horrible managers, I've seen very good leaders. They don't necessarily meet on the right scale. I had really good people managers with whom I really think dearly, and they were people who literally like were providing help, and that was a very good servant leaders, right? And again, there is a difference in like what you know as leadership as such and the servant leadership, right? So servant leadership, there's really big concept into how the servant leader can empower their team, can let them be more like have more agency into like what they can do and what they can achieve, and the list goes on, right? So for micromanagement and firefighting, I think the main issue is trust, because if you start to check on things, it's usually because something is broken in this fabric of trust, and like, can you rely on other people, right? I've never seen someone micromanaging, again, maybe my experience, where there was like full understanding that the team is capable of doing things, or they thought, again, back to agreements and communication, they thought that they cannot trust the team, even though the team was fully capable of doing stuff, but because there was this perception in their head, there was this micromanagement, firefighting. There is this very good saying, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And that's like a really kind of good explanation, like how people switch from being really very good leaders toward very good firefighters, right? And that's probably what people need to consciously understand and reflect on.
So let's dive into what you are doing as a professional or a career coach. How are you able to assist people who in a career right now, probably they are lost on what the progression would be? How do we help? Okay. Now let's go for some others questions. All right. Now, do you think that the career transition has become a choice today, or has it become a necessity?
Would say that there was really like a lot of. So, question to you back: what do you think a coaching is?
Okay, a coach is basically, to me, all right, in definition, is like someone who are able to train, give them the ability and capability, or upgrade whatever current skills that they are having to have a better self. So that's the ability of a coach.
So coaching as such, right, is more about me helping a person to uncover what is inside them, right? I don't teach anything. I don't mentor them. The answers are always, like literally always inside the person's head and their like experience and like what they know and what they do. I am not there to tell them to do something and how to do this. It's not my job. I really help them to actually get into this dark corner of their soul or bright corner of the soul, whatever it will be, with my questions, right? Because they have the agency, it's not me. And what I as a coach help is really like to keep them accountable, to really drill into this discomfort of, because sometimes we are just like, we're not getting into some part of our thoughts and thinking because of discomfort. We are ashamed, we are scared, there's a lot of limiting beliefs and so on and so forth. But if you really help them to get there, so like imagine the picture. It's like a very dark forest, and I hold my client by hand, and we are in this forest. I don't take him somewhere where I know where we need to go, because this is my path, this is not their path. What I do, I have a torch, and I just like flash it in front of them, and they choose where they want to go, because that's their path. We evaluate that, we look into if it's safe, if it really makes sense, what the results will be, how we get out there. But again, it's still their choice how to make this work. So in this case, the coach is really helping with getting out there from the woods. Yeah.
You know, it sounds like an enlightening process to me. Not everyone will get enlightened. And end of the day, the result will be quite individual. Am I right to say that?
It is quite individual, and that's where there are different standards, right? So like there is mentoring, so that's where you can actually share some experience, where you can actually share how to do things or like give some perspective and things like that. And there is like when it's coaching, when you actually help person to uncover that. And ICF, the International Coaching Federation, is very strict on that, right? So like it's really like you are not supposed to be doing mentoring during the coaching sessions, because that's a completely different discipline, right? But again, they both have their own space, right? But again, if you position that as enlightening, yes, it kind of like sounds funny, but from my experience, talking and working with different people, as well as my own coaching experience as a coachee, I can tell you this: the more honest you are with yourself, with what you feel, how you think about things, the better the outcome will be. And again, this is something that is very undervalued, because we are so used to do things fast, achieve things as soon as we can, optimize our workflows, because my agent can do things for me, and I don't have to book my table for my restaurant myself. Like, why would I want to see the reviews on the restaurant, right? But the problem with people is that we are overwhelmed with too much input, and we don't give ourselves time to actually sit down with ourselves and look what we want to do.
You're like a reflection of a self-reflection.
Self-reflection, thinking, actually having a thinking partner. That's the idea that I actually learned recently, that having a thinking partner, when the person accepts you, gives you all the time you need, accepts whatever you say, and there's like a lot of different principles around that. We don't have it. A lot of people go back to AI to do this, but again, it's not really a thinking partner, because it just like talks to you a lot.
I think a good coach really essentially has the ability to ask very good questions for the individual, for the coachee to uncover what is really their roadblock per se.
Correct. That's the beauty, right? Because again, if you ask some shallow questions, the answers probably will be like very shallow as well. And it's really it's not a nice process. I really have to admit, it's not a nice process to be honest with yourself. And for years in our corporate settings or whatever, we have been playing this game when you put some mask on and you are comfortable with this mask and you like have these performance things like for your friends, family, whatever. But question is how honest you are with yourself when you're trying to get somewhere. And that goes back to your brand question earlier, Ben, that if you want to build a brand, your own personal brand that people will respect, they will trust you, they will say, yes, I want to go and follow this person and like I want to work with this person. You need to be honest with yourself. You really need to be who have to really understand who you are, what you do, what drives you, and then build your brand, because that will not be something which is very artificial. It will be really very, very natural. I don't know if you know this gentleman, Chris Doe. He talks a lot about personal brand. And what he tells us that be you till full. So you have to be you until you're fully you, right? You have to unblend yourself. That's the words of Chris, right? And again, you can just like go give him a follow. I'm not getting any royalties for that, but go give him a follow because he's great in talking about how important it is. It's really like to get into who you really are and what you can deliver to others, because you can't start promoting something that you don't know about and that you don't believe yourself.
True. In the matter of fact, I totally agree. I resonate with you on the statement. And at the same time, think about it, getting a good coach like you is definitely very important. Getting a wrong coach, that's definitely also have a consequences that we can't foresee. Imagine that you're going to learn from a monkey, probably you will learn a lot of monkey business. Imagine that you're going to learn from an elephant, probably you'll learn how to throw your weight around.
Well, Ben has this ability to use very, very philosophical comparison.
Yeah, the monkey around, yes. Yeah.
The Ben style. So this is my personal brand. Okay, don't learn.
Yep. Yep. So as I said earlier, it really goes back to, well, first of all, where you are in your stage of life, right? Because there are people who are younger and who say, you know what, we don't even want to get into this corporate ladder. We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to build something ourselves. And again, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Just don't get there because you think that everybody's doing that. It takes a lot of effort. It's tough. It's difficult. Think that through. Talk to your coach. But there are a lot of young people who actually say, you know what, no, I have a great idea. I can make this a business idea. This business works. And then I don't need to have a flat and the car and Louis Vuitton bag or 20 Louis Vuitton bags, right? I'm fine to live somewhere low key, but making my business work and people are happy. Happy days. There are people in their 50s who think that actually I have some brilliant ideas coming from my past experience and I'm building something on my own. Amazing. There are people who are right now, and that's unfortunately the thing, right? If you look into different studies, is that people in their 50s, like mid 50s, with lots of experience, institutional knowledge, understanding the risks, etc., they are not being hired by big companies because of this age thing, right? But at the same time, you look into Brad Pitt, he is in his 50s, right? He's still being like a very good guy who is being like we see him like in the movies, etc., right? Or any actress in her like late 40s and 50s. Somehow there is no expiration date on them, but it is on the professionals like who work in corporate environments, right? So again, how we can make the regulations work for these people to deliver value, but not in the full-time job, which a lot of companies don't want to have anymore, right? So in this case, it's both the career transition, it's both the necessity as well as something that people aspire for. It really depends where they are in their stage of life and what they're trying to achieve with their life. And
Totally
there's
agree.
That's where Ikigai becomes very important, right? Because a lot of people
Correct.
they don't really understand what they are good at, what the world needs, what they love, and what they can be paid for.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean,
a very deep journey. It's like sometimes
I can give you
yeah.
I can give you an example of someone, right, who used my tool. The someone is the lawyer, and they also like art, music, and the Ikigai gave them an idea of potential combination of law and art in a sort of like some of the what was that? It was the combination of copyright law, something like this. Something that they would never imagine on their own, but because it was a smart way to look into what you like doing and what you enjoy, like in your spare time, as well as your qualifications as a lawyer, you can actually build your business around that.
True. Hey, come, let me ask you something personal if you don't mind.
Sure.
You live and work across Singapore, London, Munich, Moscow, and Silicon Valley. Which city taught you the most about resilience?
Scope.
Oh, want to
Not
share
for
more about it?
it's not for the it's not for the faint-hearted. Well, I haven't been there for 5 years right now, and will not go there. But I was born in Moscow. I was born in USSR. So I don't know if you've seen any movies about USSR. Maybe the best way to see USSR in the modern kind of like filmography is Chernobyl series. And USSR, like we had this planned economy. We didn't have the market economy. Like when the USSR collapsed, you really had to use the food stamps to try to get food. And my grandfather died, and my grandmother was in mourning, so she was not really able to go and do the grocery shopping. So I was 10, and I was tasked to go and buy some butter for the whole family and some other groceries. And the problem was that there was no food. Like you come to the supermarket and there's nothing, like empty shelves, right? So like what happens is just like there is one corner and it opens like every 20 minutes and they just like take a big trolley with stuff and you have to be lucky to grab the stuff. So I'm standing there, 10-year-old, five of my food stamps, all right? And like I managed to grab some butter and I'm going to the cashier. And then one woman is trying to steal my butter, my very hard-earned butter from me. I had to fight back. It was my first experience of fighting for food. So like I'm a tough cookie. Yes, I can fight for things, including my food. And that's kind of like the resilience that teaches you, right? So like nothing is being handed to you. You really have to work hard, like to get things done. So Moscow in the post-USSR, kind of like the early days of Russia, was tough. But also it kind of taught you like to be a street smart. And that's another thing that a lot of kids are missing right now, right? That they're not street smart. They don't have this kind of like smart ideas and smart using the brains in like more creative way, just because they are protected by their parents and the parents are trying to make the world a safe place for them.
Or apparently they think that the AI are currently much smarter than them. So depend very much on AI.
Exactly.
They are the AI natives already, okay?
Yes. But then what other things and other places taught me different things? So when I moved to London, I got a very good advice that I don't want to blend into the local culture because again, I am myself. I don't take no as an answer. I'm a pain in the neck. People to things that work for me. But at the same time, I want to understand the local culture and kind of like take the best from what I am into that culture as well. And having this adaptation was really helpful. So every place where I've been, I guess, taught me different experience. Like, for example, if you work in the UK, It was a very different thing with like opening the meetings, right? In Germany, for example, you come to the meeting at 9 o'clock, 9:00, like 0:30 seconds through the meeting, you start with agenda and everything is said and done, and then like you finish and you follow the agenda. In London, you come and like you start with this first few words about weather, and you're like yeah, weather is just like so typical English book thing, like case study. And then they start talking about like where you're coming from, like what was the travel here. And you're just like, why am I wasting time right now on this stuff? But they're actually making the bonding, the connection, because people try to understand like where you are in terms of the cultural kind of like things which are appropriate in the settings of business. It really drove me nuts, like for the first couple of weeks that I realized the code. There's a very good book about that, watching the English, right? So you look into and see how you can actually adapt all of these cultural small things. So that was a good thing for me to actually learn to be less direct, as I am as a Russian person who is married to a German person. So my German husband is totally not German. A German person at all. I'm more German than he is. But it
It's
actually helped
okay.
me.
We totally understand
Yeah.
where you're coming from, because a lot of
Yeah.
people say that we don't look like Singaporean, but
Yeah, and again, living in Asia, again, like you have to understand that there are different nuances and different cultural things that you have to like, adopt when you are in some other place. And that's actually what really helps me with interacting with different cultures, right? Because again, like once you work with a certain amount of people, you learn kind of like what to expect, and then you can actually start reading the signs, kind of like what is going on.
What about Singapore? What has Singapore taught you?
aside from being a fine country, a warm and friendly country, which we heard that quite a lot. And yeah, what about Singapore?
So what Singapore told me about? Well, first of all, Singaporeans complain a lot about the things that they shouldn't be complaining. And that's I'll stand by this, right? So a lot of people who complain about Singapore, my understanding is that people have to go and live in the UK and pay their taxes, like 45% taxes for 2 years, experience the crime, experience everything like bad weather and everything in the UK, then come back and love Singapore the way people who come to Singapore like and live here, right? So like I would say that Singaporeans complain for no reason, right? No, I understand that. I understand that at the same time, obviously, there is a big perception between Singapore, which you see in the movies like Crazy Rich Asians, right? As well as like what's going on here, kind of like in the backyard of it, right? Because it's not only about the skyscrapers and the fintech and the rest of it, right? In Singapore, you have a lot of people who really have issues just trying to get the work done. The reason why so many uncles and aunties are working everywhere is not because they like to work, it's just because their pension is not enough for them to support their living. And I mean, again, it's just like not good and bad. This is just like the situation that you have to be aware of. I mean, I have been supporting the charity Daughters of Tomorrow for like several years, because again, there's so many problems where you look into how females in Singapore, a very well-developed countries, there's still some struggle for females to get back to work if they're single mothers and they have to take care of the kids, etc. So there's really like a lot of perception about Singapore versus what it is. And from my like friends who are Singaporeans, we have a lot of giggles. They really like a good love, of course. We share our love for good food. And I have a lot of friends who love to cycle with me. And we just like, the funny thing about Singapore is that sometimes Singaporeans have never been to some remote parts of Singapore. So like it was really a bright moment when I took a few of my Singaporean friends to places like Tuas where they've never been. And they're like, wow, you are Anmo, who is like showing us what Singapore is. This is so amazing.
Hey, you know that
Yeah.
I have to address on the point of complaint. And yeah, think about it, all right, where a lot of things were being complained, and if the complaint is enough, it will catch our government attention. That's where they start to do something. And complaint in Singapore is basically like a form of progression. Don't you think so?
So yes, but at the same time, I would say that even though there's a lot of ways to complain, sometimes it still takes a while to respond. So, for example, again, I'm a cyclist, and I know that cyclists are a menace to society in many ways. Like if you've seen this hundred of people cycling every Saturday, you've probably seen this Tour de France, Tour de, I don't know, Tour de Tours or whatever it is, right? At the same time, there's still a lot of kind of like anger towards cyclists from the driving side. And I understand the roads were not built for the cyclists and the cars driving next to each other. At the same time, it is a human being. It is a human being on the bike. Just think about this, that this person is just like it's a person, right? So like it's a human. If you make some stupid move, this person can die, right? Just like think about that. You can actually make a danger, and like that's what I think that there's a lot of complaints about things that people find alien in a way that the cyclists on the road, they don't belong here. Well, they don't belong on the pavement either, right? Because there are people there. So we really have to like find a way to actually work and live together and kind of follow the rules and be cooperative. And that said, I'm saying that there are very bad cyclists who break the rules and they just like do a lot of crazy stuff, like cycling at a group of 100 people or whatever it is, right? So like, yes, I understand that. It's just like you don't have to complain about the others just because you experienced something bad before. And again, as a cyclist that provides some feedback on bad driver behavior, etc., this was never addressed.
So let's summarize the complaint part. Complaint for progression is good, but then coexist would be even better, provided that provided that no problem arise. Okay, now one last question for you, Natalia. If you could give one advice, just one piece of advice you'll do to professionals who feel uncertain about their future career prospect, what would it be?
Well, first of all, just step out of your comfort zone, right? Because what really helps probably is really to imagine yourself at the point of like really dark point. Like if you have a safe job, if you are working in a good environment, just sit down and imagine you lost it. What's your next steps? Prepare, have a plan B, right? Just think about plan B and what it could be. And again, just try to outline what are your skills, like what are your things that you can bring value for. Start building things before you need that, right? Because again, like a lot of people, what happens is that they haven't been updating their LinkedIn for years. Or they were some like, I'm excited to announce that I completed this company course, amazing. Or like repost from my CEO message or whatever it is. Think about who you are, what your presence is, and what people will see if they have to look for what you can deliver to them, right? And again, like think of this from the perspective of the bad day has come. It's today, and you don't have time to prepare. If you have time to, because it gives you some leeway, some runway to get prepared to whatever comes. And again, even if it's not coming, amazing. You just you reevaluated where you are, where you stand, and you reposition yourself to your company. If there is something in the works, you have this runway.
Oh dear, I need to start updating my LinkedIn profile.
You can call me for that. I can have a conversation about that.
That's definitely a very valuable insight that you actually shared. Definitely true. And that reminds me of something else, which is that I was preparing for my next book, and there's this section called Zombie Employee or Zombie Teammate. Zombie.
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 Yeah.
Okay, zombie.
Yeah, so it's like everyone was like, oh, okay, they're just working these days without thinking about their future and what they are doing right now, because currently a lot of work are automated, and based on the system or with the help of AI and so on, nobody really think and understand what they are really doing right now. Is it going to affect their future progress? Yeah. And it's like 9 to 5 job. So, okay, I start at 9 and I end at 5, just going back, and they don't even know what happened in the company. So after visiting a couple of companies, I realized that a lot of zombie teammates that I have been without realizing that, this is something that worth thinking about, like what you had mentioned earlier on. Yes, everyone should have their so-called blue sky time, to think about, should they, improve or upgrade themselves and help company to move up to another stage higher. Yes. But before we end the podcast, do you have any things to share with our audience?
I mean, without
Did I
promoting,
make it very sentimental just now?
No, it just made me remember myself, right? So like when I was at that place back 2 years ago, it really felt very safe, right? So I was fine. I was totally fine. I had my how they call it, successful rating, right? I got my whatever percent of salary increase. It was fine, right? But then it's like I really have this analogy of a slow boil. And again, there are some pros and cons. People are saying like, no, it's not the case. This frog in a hot warm water, like the frog will jump out anyways. But the idea is that the analogy of a slow boil, when you put the frog into cold water and then you raise the temperature, and because it happens like so slowly, you don't really even see that. And if you think that you are fine, just do some reevaluation of that. And again, like I built the tool which you can use. It's the first step is free of charge. So again, like go and use it. If you really want to experience this damage tolerance concept, this is part of the AI coach. You can do that. It costs like 25 Singapore dollars. You probably, if you're still at work, probably it's good investment, right? But again, think about where and how you can inspect your skills and your readiness for what can come tomorrow. Because the slow boil is there. Its question is like if it's coming for you or not.
Okay, awesome.
Fantastic. I think we'll put the link in the show notes now so that people can check it out.
Reach out,
you.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
where can people find you, and Natalia?
I'm on LinkedIn. My website, which helps you with career coaching, is Unscripted Ikigai. Go and try this out and let me know how it is. And again, if something is not working, ping me a note. I'll be happy to discuss that because I really want to improve my product.
Fantastic.
Cool. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And we definitely encourage everyone to remember, do out the free survey to subscribe our program so that we have more interesting topic that we can share in the very near future. Okay, until then, okay, this is Ben. Have a nice day to everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ben.
Thanks,
Thank you, Joe.
Natalia. All right.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.